Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's sessions on operations for Prep for Wave Week for your travel business. This is our second annual event that's happening and super excited to have you here, especially breaking down every day with a different theme. So today is all about the operations and getting into the nitty-gritty. And this session is specifically about client experience with a friend of the podcast, a friend of Prep for Wave Week, a really good friend personally and professionally to me, Alicia Lozano of The Motivated Co. Welcome back, Alicia.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to jump into it. This is my jam.
Oh man, I was like, we're gonna get into it because systems is not my personal strong suit. Like, I know I need to have them, and I have some systems set up in my brain, but they're not like physically set up. So, and really honing in on, because I'm a big person that is, so I have my own like MCC marketing method where you meet people, you have that content that cultivates a relationship, and then you convert them into paying clients. So I'm all about the client experience and making sure, because if you have a really great client experience, that means you have to convert less people because they're already in your world. And that means that you have referral marketing, and referral marketing is just huge. So, all right,
100%.
First question. And I love that you presented this one because I was in a very similar place about a year ago. How did you quit your job with no industry experience and only one client? And I think this is important, like to start us off, because many people are in very similar situations that they either want to quit their full-time job and do the travel business full-time, or they're struggling to just get things off the feet.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna just prep you. It's a little bit tactical and it's also a little bit woo. Okay.
I'm all about
so I have to just put it out there, right? So I hope if you heard that you didn't like plug your ears up. Okay. So
right.
I promise I'm going to give you some tactical steps on like what actually happened and why, because I think it's also important to notice that you probably can notice from my appearance that I'm not young, right? I'm 30. Oh my God. I'm like 38. Oh shit.
I didn't even think that you were older than me.
Yeah. So oh my God, I'm like, oh my God, 38. Okay. But so I'm 38. And what that means for me is that I have a family, right? I have a mortgage. I have a husband that I have to like answer to, right? Not in like a weird kind of controlling way, but I have to, we're a couple, right? We have to answer to him. Yeah. And so I was in that space. So like late bloomer, late age, right? Of doing this thing. So I quit my job because I actually had tried to get two businesses off the ground prior to this. Okay. One was an organizational business and like organizing homes, and the other and also I dabbled in like digital organization, so like pictures and that kind of stuff, which was like the longest contract ever, the longest client ever for the least amount of money ever that I got. So that was my first couple of businesses, and then I did motivational speaking, and then the second kind of business that I like tried to officially launch was life coaching. And I hope that you caught like tried to get these things off the ground, because I was side hustling. I was building a brand online, or what they say, but I really wasn't talking to any customers, or really wasn't. When I had the life coaching business, I was, and that's kind of where it crossed into this woo phase of so I was doing the things as far as like posting content and trying to get these businesses off the ground in that way, trying to build an audience so I could sell to, but I actually was never selling. So the businesses did not work when you don't sell. So step one, right? You got to sell. And then when I hired a business coach, and I was trying to get a life coaching business off the ground. 5 months into a 6-month journey with her, I realized that I am not a good coach, and I didn't want to coach. And so that's a big part of it too, is knowing what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And sometimes that process can't be rushed at
Right.
all because you have to go through some experiences yourself. You can't be taught or told, and in order to really understand how and feel how it feels to you, right? Know how it feels to you. So I went through that experience and I noticed that I like to tell people what to do. I don't like to hold space for people because my brain moves fast. So if you tell me a problem, I want to give you the 1, 2, 3s of that solution.
Right.
I don't want to wait for you to figure it out because I
Right.
already figured it out.
Love it. Love
And
it.
so that's just my personality. Again, coming back to myself and understanding myself, I had to go through that process. So anyway, so at that point, I was in a low. I think we all can relate being in a like, I'm looking for purpose. You're not feeling very good about yourself. You're maybe not wanting to get out of bed, all of the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had this friend who's been in my like I call her my day zero because she's been in my entrepreneur journey since day zero,
Mm-hmm.
and was actually one of the first people that helped me just start like get started with the business and quit like fiddling around. And so she asked me if I would if I would do SOPs in her business, like if I could help her. And she's like, I never asked you because, you know, you're always doing your own thing. And I know you're trying to get this coaching business off the ground, yada, yada, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, here's where it gets woo. So I said yes, but my brain was like, what the F are SOPs?
And I'm
I'm
sure
like,
people
I
are
don't
saying the
know.
same thing right now.
Yeah, I was like, what is an SOP? A standard operating procedure, which is step by steps on how you get to an outcome, right? How you
Mm-hmm.
document a process. So that's an SOP. So anyway, I had to go to the internet and like literally Google what was an SOP. I had to go to YouTube videos and I spent the weekend like diving headfirst into this.
Okay.
And then she gave me the project and I created my very first SOP. And I cannot make this up. This is where it gets woo. I had this energetic shift in my body that just told me this is it. And I want to point out that it did not feel like, oh my God, I found my passion, SOPs, let's go. It did not feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I was in business. Like I was actually there was a market need and I had this skill set that I really enjoyed. And I was at that perfect cross point. And when you hit that perfect cross point, you feel it in your body.
Yes.
So that's the woo part. And I just knew that even though I had one client, I knew that this type of business and that type of work was it.
Right.
That's how I was able to quit my job. It was terrifying. So I also
Yes.
think, and I don't know, I haven't really talked about the feelings actually that somebody was going through with another entrepreneur that's quit their job, like the actual feelings. But for me, it was terror. It really was. And that was how I described the feeling. It was
Was
like,
it terror? I'm assuming it wasn't a split decision, but how long had you been thinking about doing that?
yeah, good question. So I had been preparing my exit for 2 years. And by
Okay.
prepping, I meant I just knew that I wasn't going to be there. I just didn't have money or a business idea that I felt that I could see that I could do these repetitive tasks and make some money on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I never left. It never felt like the right time to leave, even though there were definitely moments in my job where I was like, oh, I really want to leave, but it felt unstable. And even though the reality of me leaving my job at the time was unstable, I felt stable.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the same time, I felt terror. I held two emotions at one time. It was like this certainty of this is the right time. You're making the right decision. This is right. Just jump. Like you're at the edge of a plane, just jump. And the structure's telling you, just jump, just jump, just jump. And you're like, oh, that's how it felt.
Same.
And I just knew. So it's like, okay, I do this. So at the same time, because I like to be real, I got a lump sum of money,
Mm.
a big lump sum of money.
Mm-hmm.
Not like $1 million,
Right.
but
But
enough
enough.
to last, enough to last. And I had been saving. We had a hefty savings account already because that's just the type of person my husband is. I will take no credit.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew we weren't going to die. But then the money came in. And I'm telling you, when I wrote at the beginning of the year, so I quit last May.
Mm-hmm.
When I wrote at the beginning in January, when I had my vision board and I said, I want $36,657 to come into my bank account, I had more than that dropped into my bank account.
Nice.
So that's also just and it wasn't, and even though I didn't see it at the time as like, oh, that's my out, yada yada, because when you come from where I come from, you don't look at that money as like, surprisingly, you don't look at that money as like savior money and risk money.
Mm-hmm.
You look at that money as like, oh my God, I could take this money and invest in another home. I can take this
Mm-hmm.
money and like do other smarter things with it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think about it. So I also didn't hold on to the money part as like safety. Like I just didn't in my mind, but it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I point that out is that it is safety because it's
Right.
cash, right? So like,
Right.
of course it's safety. But
Right.
I didn't hold on to that and I would have left, I think anyway, but that was another, I took it as a validation from the universe that okay, there's no reason not to leave now. Like I've given you a little bit of a runway, right? And
Right.
so yeah, so I've been able to, on the bad months, lean on that money for safety, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I think that makes a difference too. So
Right.
going back to the lesson, I think is like making sure you definitely have at least 6 months of savings, at least. I would want newer entrepreneurs to have a year of savings,
Right.
even if it's like the minimal, even if you know you have to cut cable or do whatever you need to do, even if it's like the minimal that you can just eat and live. I think that you need that in your bank account. If you leave without the clarity or you leave without having had a business coach and like figuring out your offers and like figuring out exactly who your target market is and like, and then it's working, like if you don't do all those things first and you still want to leave, just for your psychology and like your safety,
Right.
you have to have that money, because if not, that's going to add a difficult layer to your creativeness, to your risk factor of like trying different things in the market.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do that because you're scared that you can't pay your bills.
Right.
So you got to have money, unfortunately. And you know, it's just one of those things. Maybe if you're 20 years old and you're listening to this and you can stay with your mom, do it. Stay with your mama as long as you can. Hey, if you're 36 at 38 and you want to go live with your mama, go live with your mama.
Yeah,
Who
no, I mean,
cares?
I
Like,
know in the travel industry, just like so many varying, there's young people always coming into the industry, and there's people that are always retiring from other careers and then getting into travel. So what you're saying, like, really, really speaks to me. And I know part of, well, a lot of your success, if you couldn't already tell, is that she is an organized person and that she likes putting systems into place. So at the beginning of business, your business, or even like for travel business owners, what are some of the core processes or core systems that have to be set up even before we're thinking of going into client experience? Because that's kind of like the next transition.
yeah, good point. So where I started was, and I think everyone can start here in the beginning, and then I do want to transition into like the 4 core systems, like once you're set up. So if you're still kind of figuring things out and you don't not sure about the exact offers, or you know, you're not sure how you want to present yourself or how you want to be visible, and market yourself, and you're still kind of testing things,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, and you can afford some support like a virtual assistant, then this is what I would do. I would start to, anytime that you're doing a task and it feels cringe, like I don't want to be doing this, or like, oh, I don't want to do this, I would write that down. And I would have it in just a list, whether it's your project management system or a piece of paper. It doesn't matter. I would just start writing down what is the task that you're doing that you feel this way.
Yeah, I feel like the first thing that at least came to mind as a travel business owner was like invoicing, sending out an invoice. It has to be done. We have to get the money.
Yeah.
So that's
So
also easy to
that's a
hand off to
task,
somebody.
invoicing.
Yep.
Exactly. And you would just write that down. And then eventually you're going to have this list of like 10 to 15 to 30 to 50 things, right? Depending on who you are. And that's where you can start delegating. And that's where you can start creating processes around. So invoicing, you can start with the invoicing process.
Mm-hmm.
Document step 1 through whatever of the invoicing process. Record yourself doing it. There's a great tool called Tango. I actually used to use a different one, but there's a great tool called Tango that I like better because of the way it looks and it's prettier.
Mm-hmm.
But you can record yourself doing something, and literally that's can be your SOP. With the caveat, I create badass SOPs. So it doesn't do the trick for me, but it does the trick for most.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would use that tool to just, record really quick, record your Loom video. Boom, you have that process. What's the next process? Do the same thing, yada, yada. So I would start there. But then you have this next level business owner, who's been in business, who's selling the thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And, you're running, right? And you're like, where do I start? So that's where we get into like the client experiences and the 4 core processes around that to run any business. Is first your prospecting, which includes like everything. Think about all the strategies you have to prospect, to lead gen.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on in that bucket? Then you have your sales processes. How are you transitioning them from lead to client, and what's happening? Is there a discovery call? Is there like, what is it? Are they getting information from you, right? And maybe you can talk to like the travel industry specific, because I'm not familiar with the process of the travel industry specifically, but what is happening in that sales process, right? What are all the steps? Then the delivery. So what are you doing in that service point, in that fulfillment point, end to end of that? And then you put those strategies of like what you want to do or how you want to improve the delivery process or any way. And then you have post delivery. And that's everything that after you're done and the customer's paid up and the deliveries are done, what are you doing after that to nurture them, to maybe keep them into your network in some type of way? Maybe there's a different package, right? That you're like looking, maybe you're doing something else for them and you want to upsell or downsell them into something. And that's the post-delivery kind of like process. And so those are the 4 core processes or 4 core systems. And I'll explain the difference because I know I'm using the words interchangeably, but those are the 4 core systems to make any business run.
Okay.
Are those 4 things. Underneath that, you can have like your HR and team systems, like your executive systems, like for like how you're running your finance systems, like all of those also take place. But when we're talking about your client experience and where you should start building systems, it's in those 4. It's one of those 4 areas because those are closer to the money and the income generating activities.
Right.
So, and those are also closer to the impact of like, it's going to impact your business more. So getting your accounting and finance systems are important, yes, but what is actually going to impact you getting money in today?
Right.
And it's going to be one of those 4 areas that you want to start with. And I'll just quickly, because I want to make sure that it's clear, I always try to educate when I use systems and processes because I think it's important. But when I say a system, It's really the overarching policies, procedures, process of going from a point A to point B and getting some type of outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about your delivery system is the overarching way of how you deliver your service.
Right.
The process or processes underneath the delivery system. Give me an example of what happens in the travel delivery phase.
So the immediate thing that I was thinking about is that some people, documents have to be delivered either virtually. Some people like will brand out different boxes and put like the itinerary in the box and then put little tchotchkes and things in the box and then mail it out to their clients. So that's a way of delivering the itinerary that they just created or the documents that they're needing to travel away on a trip.
Perfect. So you just named 2 to 3 processes.
Right.
That could be underneath the delivery system for the travel agency.
Right.
So that's the difference. So I just wanted to point that out. So
yes. No, and I love that because I was writing them down because I feel prospecting and post delivery are similar but different in that, and I feel like they have different amounts. I feel like you probably have more work prospecting than you do have post delivery, because post delivery, if I'm thinking just in my marketing sense, you can nurture a relationship through social media, through discovery calls or things like that. But you've already won the client already. So there's certain things that they already know about you versus in the prospecting phase, they're still getting ready to know and learn about you in order to convert, which means that they are ready to pay you or have paid you money. And then in that delivery process, you're putting together their itinerary, delivering the itinerary. And afterwards, like you said, the relationship doesn't end after they've gone on a trip. You want them to come back to you because that is less time you have to do prospecting.
Exactly. So that's the goal of post delivery then for this industry. The travel industry is a returning customer.
Right.
So what are the exact steps underneath the post-delivery system? What are the different first we start with strategies. What are the strategies that you want to do to get this person to come back?
Right.
One, you need a follow-up, right? And you need to nurture them.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean though? Does that mean that you send them an email once a month? Do you get them on your email list? Do you invite them onto a call? Do you send them a gift? I just named 4 different processes.
Birthday cards, holiday cards.
Exactly. All of that is a process in your post-delivery for the goal of getting them to return back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I don't know what got us on that tangent, but I get like super pumped about it.
Well, and I think that's important because we're actually giving examples that people can utilize, because the word process and systems and workflow is just continuously thrown around. But what does that actually mean? Yes. So that was like your 101 to what that actually means.
Yes.
But even like going further, so now we know like the overview of what it is, and you should have like things and ideas of like, okay, this is what my process currently is, or this is what I want it to look like. So going into like this, the 4-step point system, however we want to call it, how do we really make that process really, and this is, if you haven't noticed through the speakers that I choose, they're not different. They're not kosher in Prep for Wave Week. I want people who are really pushing the boundaries. And so Alicia pushes the boundaries on things and also does a lot of real talk, especially when she talks about pop locking and dropping it in the client experience.
Yes, I love to dance. So that's definitely a framework of mine, pop locking, dropping it in your client experience, how to get your client experience to pop lock and drop it. So this is, so where you start. So you start with pop, and pop is all about making your first impression pop.
Okay.
And what does that look like for you? And I want whoever's listening, I want you to challenge your own industry. So I want you to look outside at your favorite brands that you love. I want you to look at what the brands your customers are loving, like the type of customers. So even though you all may be doing the same thing, you're attracting different types of customers to you. And what are the brands they love, and what are those brands doing? For example, what is Nike doing to make it pop when you go to their website, right? Mm-hmm. What is Nike doing to make it pop when you step into their store? And get creative with those types of ideas to bring into your own brand.
Right.
So that's popping it. One of the things that sticks out, and I can't remember the hotel, but there is a hotel in California that has a pop. You can order a popsicle from the pool, and they ask you what your favorite flavor is, right? So that's an example of like popping. Even though that may not be their first experience, that is an example of how you can make your client experience pop it, right? Mm-hmm. And so think like that. What are some things that you can do to really stand out of your industry and not do things the same way to make your client experience pop?
Love it.
Then lock it. So we got you the pop. Now we're going to get you the lock. Okay. So the lock is all about locking in trust. And the easiest way you can do that is delivering a great experience. Mm-hmm. And you're locking in the trust of that customer, because even though they've already paid you, if you drop the ball,
ooh,
who felt that, right?
Yeah.
If you drop the ball,
I got chills.
Yeah, if you drop the ball, I didn't even have to finish that sentence, because we all know what happens if we drop the ball once we acquire a customer. Mm-hmm. So that's why during that delivery phase, you can lock in the trust, one, by doing what you said you're going to do, and by doing it well. Mm-hmm. And by having systems in place that make the delivery process so seamless and easy for them. And you can anticipate clients' needs. So as you're delivering this, right, as you're invoicing, or as you're creating the packages that you want for your customers, what are some friction points that come up? What are some common FAQs that customers have? Maybe they're emailing you all the time for like, where's this, or where's this document, or where's that? And maybe a way to lock in that trust is for you to have a client portal, right? Maybe that's the answer. It may not be the answer, but That's what I'm talking about. Look for ways to lock in that trust during that delivery process. Mm-hmm. So you got your pop, you got your lock. Mm-hmm. And now we're gonna drop it. Okay.
Woo, let's do it.
So I'm like, oh my goodness. You didn't know you were gonna get a little performance, right? So the drop it is all about dropping in surprises and delightful moments throughout the customer journey. So I just named one that could also be a drop, is the popsicles, right? That's a surprising and delightful moment. Also, a surprising and delightful moment could be just a thank you card. Yes. A thank you card in the middle of the delivery service to say, hey, I know we're still in process, right? But I want to tell you that I appreciate you. Also, another way is listening and empowering your team as well to listen in on what's important to the customer. So if they say, I am into gardening, let's just say, and you're having a conversation, they're like, oh yeah, my garden this and yada, 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 right? And you know that that's important to them. One way that is a surprise or delight could be sending them something for their garden, sending them something garden themed, right? And it doesn't have to be expensive, but those are the different types of ways that you can delight them, or even just remembering things. Like just something they told you, like, oh, my dog's birthday's on Sunday.
Right.
On Monday, ask them how their dog's birthday went. Yes. You know, like those are things that people, all of us, we eat up. We want to be cared for, right?
Yes.
We want to be thought of. We want to feel important. And so when you're when you're dropping it, you're remembering the different surprises and delightful moments that you can do this. I also include that this also includes the peak positive experience. So look at your customer journey and think about what how can I cultivate and make the peak positive experience better? Give me an example of a peak positive experience in travel. So when are they feeling the best? When is your customer feeling the best?
Man, I'm gonna go like from my own personal experience as I'm boarding a ship to go on a cruise, or as I'm
Mm,
boarding the airplane to go on my trip. It's just like a big sigh of relief, and like it's fine, like physically it is finally starting now.
yes. So what can you do to enhance that peak positive experience? Could you give them a neck pillow? Could you
Mm.
could you do something, and it doesn't always have to be a gift. As they board the ship, waiting in the room, could there be a note that says,
Yes.
I know you're feeling good, and so am I because I appreciate you as a client. Like that may be cheesy, but that's enhancing your peak positive experience. And so that's also part of surprising and delighting and making it drop for your client experience.
Yes, no, I'm thinking of also, I know a fellow travel advisor who will have like euros, the euro coins, and when her clients go to Italy, she'll give them a euro coin and be like, your first pee is on me because you have to pay to go to the public
Oh,
restrooms.
that is creative. You know,
Yeah.
it made me think of another example that I read online, and I can't remember the hotel. Again, these hotels are doing it. They somehow, oh, I'm gonna have to find the hotel name, but they found out through, I don't know if this was a recurring customer or something like that, but they found out that the kid that was staying with them loved Batman. And so they hung a Batman poster
Oh,
in the hotel room.
wow. That sounds like a
Yes.
Ritz-Carlton thing, unless it's like a boutique hotel, but that
I
sounds
think it
like
was
a
a boutique hotel, but I
Ritz-Carlton.
can't, I have to pull it up, but it's things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They listened to their customer. They understood their customer. They knew that their son, maybe it's through the inquiring or when they were booking, they ask a question or something like that.
Right.
What's your favorite color? Could be a question. And
Right.
and they delivered, and how delightful as a parent do you walk into your hotel room and you see that somebody put a Batman poster up for your kid.
Mm-hmm. To make it feel like at home. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
about going the extra mile.
Yes, for sure. And doing it differently and doing it in the way that you
Right.
want to do it. And doing it in the way that, again, not against your industry, but thinking outside the box of what your industry typically does. So I think about like chocolate on a pillow when you go to a fancy hotel.
Right.
That's great, but it's been done before.
Right.
That pea coin,
Yeah.
oh my God, how funny, right? How
Exactly.
hilarious. That's a perfect example of making it drop. So
Right. Because I
that's
think
the
it's
framework.
about like standing out from your competitors. Competitors also being just the normal online agencies that anybody else can book with because they're not going to give you a euro coin to use the restroom when you're in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
but a real person is or could.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, that's the pop, lock, and drop it method framework.
I love it. Okay, let's go over it again. Pop is making the experience really pop.
Yes, making it pop from the start.
Okay.
Lock is locking in trust.
Mm-hmm.
And then making it drop is dropping in surprising or delightful moments throughout the journey.
I love that so much. I'm like, we're gonna have to remember this travel business
Yes.
owners.
Pop,
Locking and
lock, and
dropping it.
drop it. Yeah.
Alrighty. So, oh man, I'm just like I feel like the creative juices are flowing, but then again, kind of thinking too, we've made a decision on what I mean, like I feel like that's a system in itself, the pop locking and dropping. How do we document it so that we keep doing this and repeating that process, and that eventually if we wanted to hire a team, it's just a simple handoff. This is what we do. Here you go. Here's the ABCs.
Yes, absolutely. So there's different ways to document your process. So once you determine where you want to start, first you start with one process at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So don't overwhelm yourself with all like, okay, now I gotta get creative. That's the fun part.
Yes.
Write all of your ideas down
Right.
within those buckets of those 4 core processes. So write all of your ideas and strategies down in your prospecting experience, in your sales experience, in your delivery, and in your post delivery. Because that's, again, there are other processes and other systems that you can create, but those are the 4 that are going to make the wheel turn. Those are the 4 that are going to generate that revenue over and over and over.
Right.
So closest to the money. So with those 4 systems, document what you want to do in your ideas, and then pick an area to start. And then when you pick the area to start, pick the process, the one process that you want to start creating in that particular area.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you document it, documenting a process could be done in several ways. We talked about a standard operating procedure being like a formal document, which includes like a purpose. It includes like links to maybe a workflow. It includes the procedures, like the literal step-by-step things that you could do. That's one way to document your process is on an SOP, a standard operating procedure.
Right.
But that's not the only way. Sometimes it makes more sense to make a checklist. Sometimes it makes more sense to make a script. Sometimes it makes more sense to make a flow chart, or what we call a workflow, a visual representation of what that process looks like. Mm-hmm. So when you're thinking about the process that you want to create, think about what is the best way that I could get this method. What is the best way that I could get these steps that go into this process across to somebody else? What is the best way that I could express this? Is it in a checklist? Is it in a workflow? Is it in a script? Is it in anything else? And then that's how you can document your process in different ways. And those aren't the only ways, but yeah, so that's the difference. So I don't want anyone to be tied to an SOP or even be overwhelmed by an SOP too, because an SOP is robust, but it's awesome. You literally can hand somebody something. It should have everything that you need to do. Right. You can also accomplish the same thing, depending on what it is, with a 3-part checklist, with a workflow that shows, okay, they do this. I think about email management, and one thing I do is I map out all of the ways that people come into your inbox, like your email. And I map out like what you should do. And I present that as a workflow. I don't present that as an SOP.
Okay.
It could be written as an SOP, but really the best way is for somebody to see, okay, somebody comes in this way. They come in asking me to schedule a call. They come in asking me about their invoice. They come in asking me about whatever. And this is the type of person that comes in, and this is the department that they go to. And for me, to best teach that to somebody else is in the representation of a flow chart.
I was just thinking, I'm like, I feel like a workflow is kind of like the bubbles, like bloop, bloop, bloop.
Yes.
Write email, send email, get feedback. Whereas an SOP is the exact, like, go into your mail service provider, type out, go to Google and find a stock image, add stock image, like more detailed.
You nailed it. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I feel like that's even like a good starting point if you're not really ready to fully write out or don't have the time to fully write out. Just bloop, bloop, like your little bubbles. That's gonna be like my little Nintendo game now.
Exactly. Yeah, we think about marketing, right? So like marketing, we can document the marketing cycle of like ideation of like how you're coming up with ideas, all the way through how you're posting the content and measuring the content as well. And that could be done in a flow chart, like a workflow.
Right.
And that can teach somebody, if you just want somebody to know the overall workflow of something, that can be done in a flow chart.
Love it.
In the bloop
Love
bloop
it.
bubbles.
The bloop bloop bloop.
Yeah.
So if somebody, because I know the whole purpose of these trainings, these sessions, is to get ready for wave season. If somebody doesn't have, because I feel like there's an amazing base just chock full in this session, but if they don't have time to like really go in depth, or if they want guidance from someone like yourself, how can they find more information to work with you or schedule a session with you?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm on all social media platforms. You can find me under Alicia Lozano, or I am Alicia Lozano on like Instagram, and I think that's my name on TikTok, even though I'm not on TikTok very often. But yeah, so they can find me on really on social, or email at info@themotivatedco.com. And if you want to check out a place to get started with your systems, but you may not have the budget for an operations consultant just yet, then I actually have the Workflow Studio shop, which includes ClickUp templates that are easy to implement and start with. And they actually come with trainings, they come with SOPs, they come with videos about use cases of how to actually use these trackers. So if you are leaning into more relationship management, or if you need a place to store your social media and you want that process end to end, and you also want to be able to delegate some of those steps in a social media process from creation all the way to like how your evergreen content is being repurposed, so completely end to end, then that is also in the Workflow Studio, and more to come in the Workflow Studio as well. By the time this airs, there may be an additional SOP or something in there for as a resource. So yeah.
Yeah, I am so stinking excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here and like putting just so much clarity to workflows, client experience, and setting all that up.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm like super pumped about this, and like I love talking about it. So, systems are my thing.
Yes. Travel advisors, travel business owners, thank you so much for attending this session. Make sure if you have the study hall pass with me, we're going to be going live on our private Zoom session from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern time here. And I would love to dive in on a little bit about this or any other things on today's operations day. All right, have a great one. Listen or watch the rest of the trainings, and we'll see you later on in the week. Bye.